Hey, my name is Shelly, and this is my recent reads wrap-up. It's been a couple weeks since I made last video. Summer has been really busy, and funny enough, today is supposed to be the first day of school, but for some reason my school district decided to postpone it to Wednesday. Today was like the only day that I had to film this video, so I have to still do it with my kids home, and that kind of sucks because I was really looking forward to having the house to myself for once, but we have to make do with what we have. I have a nice pile of books to talk about today, so without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so the first book that I want to talk about is Blood Cross by Patricia Briggs. This is the, I can't even remember which in the Mercy Thompson series. When I did my last recent reads, I was in the middle of it and I have quickly finished it and I loved it. It's not my favorite of this series, but I really did love it a lot. This series for me sits around like 4 stars, purely for entertainment value. I wouldn't say that it's like mind-blowing or amazingly written. It's pure entertainment, popcorn read, a great in-between for like heavier, more intelligent books that use a little bit more brain power than one of these. So I really did enjoy this book, and now that I'm thinking about it, I have no idea what this book is about. So every book is really episodic. So I read this book and then I followed up by reading Borne, and I ordered this copy from thrift store outlet, and it was supposed to be like a good, very good condition book. And if you haven't noticed, there's a huge stain, there's no cover, the pages are all like torn and marked, and it's got some weird gross stuff here. So I was really upset, but thankfully they gave me my money back and said I could do whatever I want with it. I'm going to throw this out after this video because it is a really not very nice, and I don't have a purpose for a hardcover without the cover art. This is continuing on with the Mercy Thompson series. I am enjoying it. I think this one was more about fae, which was really interesting because it's not like the fae that is like common in fantasy nowadays. This is like the traditional like folklore fae, which are like ugly monsters that are like really brutal and are not nice. And that's the type of fae that I like the most. So I was very happy to jump in and dive a little deeper into this world. It's very interesting. Again, probably 4 stars. I can't remember because I read 3 Mercy Thompson books. This one was probably my favorite out of the 3 that I read. I get that the covers are trying to attract a certain type of people, but this cover for me, it just really speaks to me, like her tattoos, the background, it all works. So yes, I really enjoyed this one because it was more of a deeper dive into her Aboriginal history and folklore, and it was amazing, and I really enjoyed it. But I am now a little burnt out from Mercy Thompson, so I'm going to take a big break. So I do really recommend this series if anybody is looking for something a little bit lighter, but you still get really interesting, thick world building and interesting characters. You have tons of that. The one thing I have to say is, if you're not interested in reading about misogynistic kind of world, I maybe might skip this because it is following werewolves and it's very male dominating. So if you don't like that, I maybe might skip it because it is very much in it. Although the author does a really good job of like addressing the fact that it is not ideal or up to modern society, it is still there. So the next book I finished was a buddy read on my Discord. I will link that down below. And unfortunately, this book did not work for, I would say, a bunch of us. I finished it, but a few people did drop out. And a few people gave it really bad ratings. And I unfortunately only gave it 3.5 stars. I think that I might have given it less stars if I wasn't such a fan of The Expanse TV show. And this has nothing to do with The Expanse. Well, it might, but we'll leave it at that. This is a brand new series. It is disconnected from the Expanse series, but it is by the same author. This is a brand new sci-fi series. I wouldn't even say it's space opera, it's sci-fi. It's about humans that are on this planet and they don't know how they got there. I guess they've been in there for generations and they just don't know how they got there. They have like modern technology. They're modern humans basically. And they basically get invaded by aliens. So this team of human scientists get abducted and they're basically taken to this ship which contains many other aliens that were all given a task to discover something for these like invading aliens. And the premise sounds really awesome, but unfortunately the way that the story was given to us was very lackluster. It felt like I was reading from like a historic events as opposed to a reading from it like first person or experiencing it in the now. And it just felt very disconnected and soulless. And not to mention that there was a lot of characters that had very, very bland character development and too many. There was way too many characters that you just didn't care about. And I think that that could have been cut in half. You could have been half the characters and spent more page time on them and developed them further. With all that said, the ending was very interesting and it left me wanting to maybe continue on with the series, but I'm not really in a rush to do so, and I'm pretty disappointed with this book. I do recommend this book if you are interested in the alien invasion aspect because it's done in a very unique way, and I have to give kudos to that. So the next and last book that I finished recently is The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. This is a reread for me. I'm so glad I reread this because I literally remembered nothing from the first time. Like, I'm like questioning, I'm like, did I even read this book? So I listened to the audiobook, and I'm happy to say that it's a different audiobook narrator than the one that did The Faithful and Fallen, because I wasn't the biggest fan of that audiobook narrator, mainly because he did this weird like whisper scream that I absolutely hated, and it took me out of the series. But we're talking about this book, and there were things about this book that I'm like, why did you use that term, like, to explain something? And if you read this book, you know exactly which term I am talking about. And it was used so much. Oh my God, like it was just non-stop. But anyways, what is this book about? So this is a Viking-inspired book. And I mean Viking-inspired to the T. The folklore, the gods, the world building, to the point where like the detail about the weapons and the outfits and like the way that characters kind of look and like when they're getting ready for battle was so well done that I think that maybe it was a little too much. There were a lot of description of the weapons and the outfits, so if you're really interested in like a historical like what Vikings actually wore and like what their weapons look like and how they took care of them, this book will tell you, and it will tell you so much. So this book is taking place from three perspectives. One is from a retired soldier, and she's a mother figure, and something happens and she has to get her son back. The other is from a young guy that was a slave, but now he's working for like this, what are they, like a band of mercenaries? And then another one is another female character, which is also a part of a different band of soldiers. And I really, really, really loved the female perspectives. I think that John Gwynne did a tremendous job of writing female characters, which I find, I hate to say this, but I find a lot of male authors struggle with that. But John Gwynne did such a great job. He made them strong, he made them vulnerable, he made them very flawed, and even with the male POV, he is very flawed, but you can relate to him, and that is what I really liked about the story. I loved the lore, and I loved the weird, creepy creatures that are in this, and I mean creepy, teeth-eating creatures. So I loved all of that because of the weird terminology and the overuse of weapon description. I only gave this book 4 stars, but that's just me, and I think that maybe this might appeal to a lot of people. I mean, it obviously does, because people loved this book when it came out. So with that said, I really enjoyed it, and I will be continuing on with the series. All right, so now that portion is done, I'm going to talk about what I am currently reading, and I'm kind of excited about some of these. So we'll just start with the big one. I am still reading The Dragonbone Chair. I'm listening to this via audiobook, and I am here, like I'm almost done. And this book, I talked about it briefly in my previous recent read wrap-up, but this book was a slow start, and it took me a really long time to get invested in this world. And there is so much world building, and I'm not joking when I say so much world building. Like, it is a lot, to the point where I'm pretty sure I missed like 90% of it, and I'm only absorbing 10%. Like, the world building is just really good. I don't want to say much else about the book since I haven't quite finished it yet, but as it stands right now, I'm really enjoying it, and I'm really loving it. I especially love how Simon, who is, I think, 14 or 15 at the time of this book, acts like a teenager. He doesn't act like a grown-up in a child's body. He acts like an immature, silly teenager, And I love that. And I'm sure a lot of people would be annoyed by that, but I feel like the representation is done so well that I cannot help but to love Simon. So I will be continuing on, and hopefully by the next time I do a recent reads wrap up, I will be finished this book. And the next book I want to talk about is The Fractured Dark by Megan E. O'Keefe. I got a little less than 50% the way through. I'm listening to this via audiobook, and I think that was a bit of a mistake because I feel like the audiobook is probably one of the worst audiobooks I've ever listened to. It's a male audiobook narrator, and the way that the audiobook narrator does women's voice is like they are men, and then men sound like women. That's the only way that I can. They sound very masculine, and I kind of hate it. Like, I feel like that for these characters, you don't, just because they're soldiers and strong, you don't need to make them sound like men. I don't know, but I just kind of also put it on hold because I wasn't in the mood for sci-fi at the moment, although I was really enjoying it and I really do like it. This is probably going to be an ongoing book throughout the next month that I'll read in between other books. So I am enjoying it, but I'm just not in the mood. I'm in the mood for epic fantasies right now, and this just doesn't fit the bill. So we will be hopefully updating the next recent reads with positive thoughts. And the last book I want to talk about is... that's not going to help you. The Will of the Many by James Islington. I am so happy that I picked this up. I'm doing a buddy read on my Discord channel if you want to jump in. It's a month long. You have more than enough time. As of right now, I think I'm the only one that actually started the book. So there's lots of time to join. I am about 100 pages in right now, and I'm reading this physically. If you're new to my channel, you may not know this, but I rarely read books physically. I just don't have the time or the attention span, to be honest. So I like to consume books via audio. But I really wanted to give this book a shot through eyes only because that was the way that I used to read books, and I loved books. So I want to love books again. So it will take me a little longer. And so far, I'm loving this book. It is really good. I predict that this will be a 5-star read. I know a lot of people compare it to Red Rising. As of 100 pages in right now, it's not right. The only thing that is like Red Rising is because it is inspired by Roman history. So a lot of the terminologies, a lot of the titles are all Roman titles. So I think that may be the connection here. But as of right now, I see more influence in Wheel of Time and Harry Potter. So I am kind of indifferent on Wheel of Time, but I love Harry Potter. To me, that's a really good compliment. It's kind of hard to explain, but in this world, people are ranked by hierarchy. And I can't say that word, hierarchy. The higher you are, the more powerful you are. And the more you can use their special ability, their magic ability called the will. So the higher you are, the stronger your will. The lower you are, the weaker your will. So we are following this young boy named Biz. He's an orphan and he street fights, and he basically is living like a street kid. But then he gets the attention of a hierarchy person, and I'm just going to leave it at that. Where it stands right now, the story is getting really good. I especially am enjoying the sci-fi aspect because I don't really think anybody talks about how it does have a little bit of a sci-fi aspect, meaning that there's technology. And, obviously not everybody has technology, but the richer people have technology. And I really, really love that. I am struggling with the visualization of it. But with that said, I really am enjoying that, and I'm hoping to finish this book by my next recent reads wrap up. So I do kind of have a life channel update, and basically that is that my life is going to be changing and updating, and my time to make videos and read a lot is going to be cut down drastically. So I will not be able to upload and make videos as much as I was before summer. I was really on a trend of once a week. It will be whenever I have the time or the opportunity to make a video. But with that said, I will be using my Instagram and Goodreads more. So if you're interested in what I'm currently reading, I will be updating those on a regular. If you like this video, think about liking and subscribing. And thank you so much for watching, and have a lovely day. Bye!